Did you scare them? What happened?
Well, you know, it's something like what Perot has done today, but it was in a much bigger way than because nobody was doing it. Now, first of all, people thought that I was invited to the White House to sing my song, Santa Baby, I Want to Be Evil, Old-Fashioned Girl. That was not the case at all. 50 of us women were invited there to give our opinions as to why there is so much juvenile delinquency in the streets of America.
Right.
That was the question.
Right.
I kept raising my hand. Every time somebody said something, I raised my hand, and Mrs. Johnson was saving me for last, it seems. Oh, first of all, I want you to know President Johnson was not supposed to be there. But everybody was wondering if he's coming. It was like waiting for Cary Grant, you know. Is he coming? Is he not coming? And all of a sudden, the walls of Jericho opens up, and here comes President Johnson with cameras in back of him, you know. He puts his arm on the rostrum. He actually, I swear to God, cross my heart and hope to die if I'm not telling you the truth. The man said, I want you all to know how fortunate it is that you are all here today to have lunch with the world's most important family. I would like you to go back to your communities and tell your communities what a wonderful family you have here in the White House. I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth, Whoopi. May the gods strike me dead if I'm not telling you the truth. Anyway, so, Whoopi, I said to her, we were taught to hate the Germans because we had to fight that war. We were taught to hate the Koreans because we had to fight that war. We were taught to hate the Vietnamese because, etc., etc. We were taught to hate the Japanese. When the wars were over, you didn't tell us not to hate them. You didn't retrain us. And then on top of all of that, you took the industry out of the United States and gave the American jobs to the enemy. How can you possibly expect us to accept that when you never told us any differently? And now you're telling us that we're a problem? And we came home from these wars without a job? And look at the Gulf War. These boys came home and didn't even find practically enough money to pay their mortgages. And they're considered undesirables. The boys who came back from Vietnam were not even considered first-class citizens when they came back. They were hated, undesirables. And you are now telling us that we should love one another without jobs? You tell us that we should be good without jobs? That you gave to what you told us was the enemy? What are we supposed to do now? Walk the streets? That's what they were doing. Well, I mean, I may be exaggerating a little bit now, because every time I think about it, I just get so angry and annoyed inside about what that government, these governments are doing to us as American citizens. My country, 'tis of thee, as the man said on the boys who came back from the Vietnamese wars. Great land of bigotry. What happened? Why aren't we correcting these situations? When you bring foreigners into the country, the Koreans, the Vietnamese, the Japanese, and they're walking all over us in our jobs, and you expect us to be nice, sweet, loving people. When the community is being broken apart. Now the taxes are so high that both parents have to work, and we are latchkey kids. What do you expect of the children? And anyhow, one lady got up way over in the corner of the room, and she said, Miss Kitt, I'll have you know, I have 8 sons, and I would be glad to donate each one of them to Vietnam. I said, how can I talk to you? Jack Anderson called me in January 1974. I remember it very well because I was packing up the car to take my daughter and the big St. Bernard dog up to the mountains with a friend of my daughter's. And the phone rang, and it was Seymour Hersh from the New York Times, who was asking me permission to print what they had found. And he told me what he found. He said, what I'm sending you, he sent me a bit of it. It was only a smidgen of what the CIA had on me. Now, the way they put you out of work, of course, Lyndon Bird Johnson called the networks across the nation, the media in general, all the medias, and said, I don't want to see that woman's face anywhere, because he was escalating the wars, obviously, it seems to me. And according to my dossier, at the bottom of the page, it says, specifically requested by Lyndon Bird and Lady Bird Johnson. He sent out the FBI to go out to the venues that I had been working in or that I might be working in, because every place that I ever worked in always had a return engagement clause in it. And if the FBI is on the doorsteps of these venues, then you are considered a problem.
Right.
Well, the Ambassador Hotel, I had a contract there about 3 weeks later, and suddenly they couldn't find the contract. It was a signed contract on both parties' side. All of a sudden, the agents don't want to know you. Yeah. Even your friends don't want to know you. Nobody called. I was up there in my house in La Colina Drive, wondering what happened. So, eventually, I never left this country. I never will leave this country. I love this country. Basically, I love what America stands for. Yeah. She has a lot of problems, and I'm perfectly willing to help her solve her problems. Right. And I'm not afraid to open my mouth, even though you get your face slapped. But I went to Europe and different places, South America, Australia, anywhere that I could find work. And until this day, you still don't know who is remembering and said, well, like my mother-in-law said, yes, Eartha, I believe what you said. I agree with what you said. But did you have to say it? Even my girlfriends who have sons that were about to be at an age to be sent to Vietnam. They were at an age to be sent to Vietnam. Who said to me, I think you should apologize to our friends because of what you did. I said, why? Don't you have sons? Do you want your sons to go to Vietnam? Yeah. We want to build our country from the inside again. As a matter of fact, what the politicians, all of these politicians, Clinton, Perot, all of them are saying exactly the same thing I told them in 1968. You take the industry out of this country and you're going to have a big problem because everybody in this country is going to be without a job and they're going to wonder what happened. You can find billions of dollars to go to the Gulf. Yeah. How can't you find billions of dollars to take care of the poor people in this country? Why are we walking the streets? Yeah. A lot of those boys who went to wars and fought for this country. Yeah. I know some people think I'm bitter, and maybe in some respects I am bitter. And maybe in very many ways I'm very angry. Because this is my country, and we are entitled to fight for it from the inside. And sometimes I think, what happened? I thought my country said we have freedom from oppression, freedom from hunger, freedom of expression. You can speak your mind. As long as you're not hitting anybody over the head with a baseball bat. You're entitled to speak your mind. We don't want to be on welfare. We want jobs. I want to have dignity and respect for myself. And this is what I feel about every one of us in the United States as well as the rest of the world. But if you're going to pay people to stay poor, why not stay poor? Yeah. And if you get a job, if the job pay is as much as you can get from the welfare, you don't have to pay taxes on the welfare money, but you have to pay taxes on the money that you get from a job. That's it. That's it. Disappointed, terribly disappointed, particularly in my own country that threw me out of work in this country for over 20-some-odd years, or whatever the figure might be, and put me out of work. Yeah. I lost a lot of lucrative years. And then the disappointing thing, too, is that the American public and I did not have a chance to grow up together. Yeah. And they thought that I had either gotten out of the business, I died, or I had moved to Paris or moved to some foreign country. So no, I never left America, and I have no intentions of leaving the United States. But what goes around comes around.
Shall we toast to that?
Yep. Here we are, darling.
Here's to life.
And I don't know anyone yet who's done me wrong, that the karma did not work.
Ooh. Yeah.